But yeah, when I'm doing my one-on-ones with everybody, one of the first things I listen for, and anyone who's on this call who's met with me recently knows that if I don't hear enough analog tape saturation and compression going, it's the first thing I'll send you back to do. And people are like, "Oh, I know it works good on the kick, or I know it's good on the bass," but pretty much it really it works on everything. What's that hot sauce? I put that shit on everything. It is that. I put that shit on everything. That old lady. It's an American funny commercial, but I do put that shit on everything. And it was funny because as I was sort of doing a little bit of preparation over the last couple of days, I thought back about how long I had been using analog tape and what important thing it was just in my life. I remember my grandfather, who was in Los Angeles. He was a doctor, but he was into sound, and he bought this crazy big Ampex reel to reel and would start to record classical music broadcasts off of the radio, and and play with the tape machine. And I mean, it started, I think that was where it started. And then we had 4 tracks and 8-track tapes, and then there were cassettes, lots and lots of cassette tapes. And I got into the cassette tapes, and I had a Nakamichi cassette tape deck that was really expensive and fancy. And we'd get the metal Oxide tapes. And I remember moving to New York City in the 80s, and it was the birth of hip hop. And it was really before hip hop was national or international. It really started in New York City. It's really, really true. And of course, LA played their part in it, and the South played their part in it, and Texas, everybody. But one of the first things I used to do was just stay up if I wasn't going out, or I would set it even if I was going out, to auto record all of the mixtape Friday night, Saturday night hip hop shows. And I bring these tapes back to California and I play them for people, and they'd be like, "What is this, man?" I was like, "No, this is hip hop, you guys." And people knew rappers live, but this is true. And man, I lost all of those tapes like in some summer vacation in a rental car, melted on the hood or whatever. But tape has always just been such a big deal. And when I started my career at Warner Brothers, we had analog tape. It was at River Sound, which was owned by the Steely Dan guys, Donald Fagen, and they had analog tape and they had digital tape, which I thought was funny. And the analog tape just sounded amazing, and the digital tape was always breaking down. But everyone, you always want something different than you want it back. So back in the analog tape days, people wanted clean, and now we want fat. It's just funny how things come completely full circle. So good. What's up, Chip? So anyway, so when the birth of digital came out, people who were doing top quality work still had the tape machines going. I mean, I think I said this before, but Dr. Dre would take his drum machine and they would do all the separate outputs and send it to the tape machine and slam the tape and then put it back into Pro Tools or whatever. And when we did the bass and drums for our first album, we did all the rhythm section stuff to the tape machine, and then we actually let the tape sit for 3 days. This was also part of the voodoo, where some of the oxide would fall off or something and you get a warmer sound. And we literally would wait 5 days and before we would put it into Pro Tools. So people have always known the importance of the sound of this thing. And again, it's just quite amazing to me because, people at the time used to complain a little bit about it, and now people can't get enough of it again. And I think, the question today as we look into this stuff is not, which tape and which tape machine. I think that is a question that's going to come down to personal choice. But the question of whether to tape or not to tape, the answer is to tape. You got to tape it. It's huge, and there's so many ways to use it. But I can notice right away when people have, their tape compression saturation game happening, and when they don't. As soon as you do it, like we said earlier, it just feels like cheating. It's just so ridiculously easy. All right, so on that note, I think the gang is all here. Let's start.